Hello there. Welcome to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. This is your host, Anthony Caine, and this week I'm joined by Jenabeth from Real Talk with Jenabeth to discuss Jaws the Revenge. If you're a fan of the podcast and would like to consider pledging your support, there will be a link in the episode description for you to check out the various tiers offered. Also, please be sure to check out our TeePublic store to buy some Force Ghost Conversations merchandise. And without further ado, it is time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. The Jaws conversations are continuing here, and we are at the final one in the line of Jaws films as of now, right? You never know. Maybe Jaws 5 is coming around the corner here with the 50th anniversary and all that. But we're here to discuss the often maligned, again, Jaws the Revenge. And we are here with a brand new guest to the podcast on this program here. We got Jenabeth from Real Talk with Jenabeth, a wonderful platform on both YouTube and TikTok where she does excellent reviews of movies, both past and present. So go make sure you go check out her channel here, and we have an excellent discussion on Jaws the Revenge. Again, really diving deep into the themes as best we can, talking about what works, what doesn't work in this film, and its overall, I guess, legacy, and frankly, even sprinkle a little bit of Christmas in here too. So a little bit of a discussion for everybody here. That I think you'll all enjoy to a large degree. Just as a foreknote, I did record this episode in advance and this portion of the recording. So this is where we would typically do the Cloud City Gossip segment, where I recap all the news and happenings in the Star Wars and Lucasfilm Adjacent Galaxy. Because I did pre-record this again, I have no idea what news has come out. So any news that has taken place in the lead up to this episode that has been covered previously on another episode, I will talk about it in next week's show, where you can expect to find that covered at great length and detail here. So with that, let's get to our discussion with Jenabeth about Jaws the Revenge. Stay tuned, and we'll be with that on the other side of this short break. All right, everybody, welcome back to another installment of Force Ghost Conversations. And as I teased last week, we're moving along on the Jaws discussions here, and we've reached the end, technically, of the Jaws continuity in some way, shape, or form. We are at the I guess the final part so far of this saga, Jaws the Revenge. Is it a Christmas movie? We'll talk about it. Maybe it might fit the description based off of how you describe it. Is there a supernatural element to this? Can a shark track someone down and hunt them down? Maybe. What's Michael Caine doing in this movie? We'll talk about all of that. And when I say we have a guest here today. And of course, we have from TikTok and YouTube, Jenabeth from Real Talk with Jenabeth. Jenabeth, welcome to the podcast, and how are you doing?
I am doing good. Thank you so much, Anthony, for having me on. I had not seen Jaws the Revenge, so this was a fun adventure to go on. So I was flattered that you reached out, and I'm excited to dive into the conversation.
Well, I am so glad to hear that, because there are many a folk that would be like, don't invite me onto this episode. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to devote 90 minutes of my life to watching this movie. So I'm glad that you have the opposite approach to this, where you're like, I have a lot to talk about. You said it off air. You have a lot to say about this movie, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts on it.
Yes, I thought so. Ironically, so to go into a bit of my history with Jaws, I watched the original Jaws for the first time when I was in high school, and
Mm-hmm.
then I believe I saw the second one, and I was not impressed with it, and essentially just decided like, okay, I'm not going to keep going with
Yeah.
this. Like, and then according to the research that I had done, I just knew that the sequels just got progressively worse. And I just was like, I'm not going to waste my time. But I always knew in the back of my mind, because of pop culture, that Jaws, for specifically Jaws the Revenge,
Yes.
was not a good movie. So whenever you had reached out like, hey, I'm doing a series on the Jaws franchise on my podcast, are you interested in this episode? And I was like, you know what, I have been curious to know, is that movie like as bad as people say it is, or are people being too hard on it?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I will check it out for the curiosity, and I will say it does live up to the infamy.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's a great starting point for us here. I
At least for me. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of hear like your history with Jaws and this movie and everything.
Yeah, yeah. Well, happy to dive into all that, but I want to throw it back to you first before as our guest here. I want to know about the you said in high school, Jaws 1 was your first time experiencing that, which many would argue is like a masterpiece, maybe Spielberg's best film,
Definitely.
the seminal blockbuster, right? It created the summer movie season that we're in now in the midst of. Well, take us back to that high school day or night. What are your memories of that experience, and why do you think it's regarded as such a classic?
Right. So, when it comes to the original Jaws, I will start out with the premise that I am, even to this day, not necessarily a horror
Hmm.
person. Like, I don't go to the movies to always see a horror movie. I know there's
Fair.
a whole culture out there of just pure horror movie fans, and that's like what they specialize in. That's not me, but whenever I was in high school, I kind of had like a horror movie phase where I was like, oh, let me check out some classic horror movies. And I knew that Jaws, like, regardless of if you would label it a horror movie or not, which I think it is, it's a quintessential Spielberg classic
Yeah.
film. So I checked it out, and you know what? After I saw it, I was actually surprised that it was not as gory as I expected it to be. Like,
Yeah.
in a way, I guess I had thought it would be kind of like modern day gore, like
True.
just
True.
like blood and guts everywhere and all this stuff. And actually, what Jaws does well, so, like you said, this was kind of the quintessential summer blockbuster
Hmm.
of 1975 from Spielberg. And what is, for the most part, is it is just a human story. It
Yeah.
is a man versus nature story, and it's not just about the shark. Okay, it is a deeper primal psychological thriller
Hmm.
that it touches trauma, and it touches the politics of small town fear and personal
Yeah.
redemption. It's survival horror. So it has all these different themes in it and compelling characters,
Mm.
most of all. So as you're watching this story, this mystery, this investigation play out, you are drawn into the journey that the characters are on, this journey that Chief Martin Brody is on. And it's compelling. It's
Mm.
not just about the shark. And then the key thing that Jaws does so well is it's able to build that tension without showing a whole lot,
Right. Right.
just through the music and the camera angles. Like, less is more. The,
Hmm.
the restraint of holding back on the shark, like in the first
Yeah.
half, really builds up to when you actually do see the shark in the second half. So I do feel like the original Jaws was just such a lightning in a bottle, because it was just such a tight, compelling story. It was a human story that had the horror elements and survival elements of
Yeah.
a shark attacking people. But most of all, like, you care about the characters, and they all have arcs. And kind of going into what the sequels lack is, just one by one, they just start to have less compelling
Hmm.
characters and stories, to where they start relying so much on the shark
True.
spectacle that all of a sudden the story is laid aside,
Mm.
and it just kind of progressively gets worse as the movies go on. But yeah, I think everyone would agree that the first Jaws is by far, like, in terms of structure, the best Jaws
Yeah,
movie.
I mean, I'd be very intrigued to find the person that's like, I think Jaws 2 is the best of the entire saga, or even dare I say someone that says Jaws the Revenge is their overall favorite. I bet there's one person out there, and I'd be really intrigued to have that conversation with them. But I yes, and everything that you just said there. I mean, this is Jaws is like a film that is so much about this shark, but all at the same time has nothing to do with the shark, as you were describing there so eloquently. It's about overcoming fear, and I think that what you're getting at there is how this is like a horror film in many ways, the original Jaws, but it like dabbles into just about every genre you can think of, right? There's a little bit of
Yes.
romance. There's a hint of crime drama. There's character drama in this thing too. There's action adventure, swashbuckling pirate adventure too in this thing. So when
Yes.
it touches upon all those and it executes them really to a top degree here, there's something that everybody can go to the cinema and enjoy, not just necessarily for the horror fan, that is, thinking they're going to get an awesome shark adventure, which they do, but by no stretch you get that, but it allows any casual person to find something in the film that they're like, oh, I can connect to that. I like that. There's something I find there that I think is enjoyable here.
Absolutely. Everything that you said, 100% agree.
Love it, love it. Well, that's Jaws, 50th anniversary celebrating this year. Everyone, I have hard pressed to find someone that doesn't like Jaws, but I will find most people don't like Jaws: The Revenge, and it's the last of the sequels to. As of now, maybe they announce tomorrow a brand new, Jaws 5 or something like that. But fans, especially for this one, even after Jaws 3D, do not really hold this one in that high of esteem. Um, so you mentioned this was your first experience diving into this era of the Jaws sequels, so beyond Jaws 2. What was your experience like watching this for the first time? Did you like it? Did you hate it? What was the experience like of even watching? Did you get a bucket of popcorn and just like, I'm gonna just devour this thing? Did you have a nice order in like Chick-fil-A or something like that and have a nice dinner to go along with it? I'm curious, how did it go?
Yeah. So like I said, I went into it, knowing, okay, it is probably going to be bad. Is it as bad as everyone says it is? Is it over exaggerated? So I guess my best way to explain it is I thought that the first two acts were bad.
Okay.
Now the third act is hilariously bad.
Mm.
So in a way, at least the third act, it's so bad, but it's also funny because of how
Yeah.
bad it
Yeah.
is. So in
Okay.
a way, it redeems itself a little bit with how ludicrous a lot of it is. But the first two acts just incredibly boring.
Hmm.
A lot of story issues that we could get into. I thought so for your listeners that maybe don't know the premise of Jaws: The Revenge. I had Chat GPT write
Oh,
like a script of the
love it.
premise that I thought we can like read it so that way it kind of sets the tone
Absolutely.
for what kind of this movie is exploring. Okay, so Jaws: The Revenge is the fourth movie in a franchise that honestly should have ended after the first one. This time, the story follows Ellen Brody, the widow of Chief Brody, who now believes that a shark is personally targeting her family out of revenge. Yes, you heard that right. The shark has a personal vendetta against the Brody family, as if it has like a murder board in the ocean somewhere with a little red string connecting photos of Ellen and her kids. And after killing one of her sons in Amity, it follows her all the way to the Bahamas to finish the
Yep.
job. So we've officially gone from Nature Strikes Back to shark turned serial killer. This is Final Destination, but wet and dumb.
Oh, whoa. Chat GPT is not pulling back any punches there.
I know with some sass there, but yeah, I actually thought, ironically, so we're recording this in June 2025. Earlier this year, I saw Final Destination
Another good
Bloodlines
one.
and
Yeah.
how like death is coming for the bloodline. It reminded me of the shark in Jaws: The Revenge. He's somehow seeking revenge on the Brody
That's right.
bloodline, even though the plot itself makes zero sense. So I guess I out of curiosity, like, what are your thoughts just on the premise of the idea of the shark seeking
Oh,
revenge?
I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous. How is that? I mean, like, is it even possible for a shark to do that? Like, is this the kid of Jaws 1, Jaws 2, Jaws 3? Like, what's the connection here? Why is this particular shark upset? And that's something that is like could never be explained, right? And it's just really
Yes,
like,
yes.
and I'm just like, is it just like, Ellen Brody just kind of being like crazy with her husband passed away pretty recently, and then her son passes away, and she's just like looking for any potential like description as to why, and just like trying to make sense of it all, and that's the answer that makes sense to her, and she just runs with it. But I mean, it's not. It's not going to happen. There's no way a shark could get all the way from Massachusetts all the way down to the Bahamas by
Right,
sensing that the
yes.
Brody family is down there. Like it's just it's ludicrous.
Right. So and so essentially I think that's one of the bigger issues with it is just the plot itself, the premise of it is just hard to believe
Hmm.
anyway because like you said, the idea of the revenge doesn't make sense because all of the sharks in the previous movies died. So it wasn't
Yeah.
like one survived, like they all got exploded or something. So this shark ends up, and obviously you're listening to a podcast, right? So like spoilers ahead,
Oh yeah.
you know, the
Guess
the
what?
like movie starts off with one of Miss Brody's sons getting eaten by a shark or attacked by
Hmm.
a shark and he dies. But then that starts off the shark chasing the family, but it's like, well, what's the revenge that was done to the shark that he's
Yeah.
seeking vengeance? And then, like you said, another thing that doesn't make sense is, they jump from New England to the Bahamas and the shark has followed them all the way there.
It just
So,
knows exactly where to go.
right. So the plot itself is, pretty hard to believe, but even if we're, going to live in a world where we're just, like we do with a lot of movies, we just accept it. Or like, okay, here we go. Here's the plot. How is it going to play out? It still kind of falls flat in
Hmm.
every other area.
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally think that that's exactly right on this thing. I mean, that's just uh, the insinuation is just really bonkers. I think that's just the way to describe it, frankly, for this thing here. And I am like, why did they decide that this was the path to go with this thing here? And I'm left at a just kind of like a standstill of like, well, I guess what else are they gonna do here? It's kind of gone off the rails when you do a 3D installment for a film and do it as a cash grab gimmick, basically. It's kind of just like, well, what do we do after this? And it seemed like in the production of this, just kind of diving into that a little bit for this conversation here, they were building Universal Studios down here in Orlando, and they have with an opening day attraction down there for Jaws the ride. They wanted another
Oh,
Jaws film out in the lexicon to garner some more interest in that. So that's kind of the impetus for why this film exists, and they just kind of like went with the best idea that they could think of, I guess, which was
right, which is
Revenge Shark.
interesting. Because you would think that anybody that's not even a screenwriter by living could have come up with a better premise than
Hmm.
this, but okay. Another thing that bothered me is, the beloved character from the first movie, Martin Brody, played by Roy Schneider. The movie opens with him being dead. He
Yep,
apparently just dies
he had a heart
in
attack.
between, the like third and fourth. Um, and it's explained like, okay, Roy didn't die of a shark or anything dramatic. He died, quote by Ellen Brody, fear. Fear killed him, according to Jaws, The Revenge. And so he dies of a heart attack out of fear,
Hmm.
which I think we know after the journey that Martin Brody went on in Jaws 1 and 2, what a disservice to his character to
I
apparently
agree.
have gone out like that.
Yeah.
I mean, the like dude defeated two sharks in two separate movies and overcame his fears, and yet he died of fear of the shark
I mean, yeah,
from having a heart
he
attack.
regressed
So,
back.
right. So, but I do think that Roy Schneider made a good choice of not starring in this movie for a reason.
Yeah.
Of course, they had to explain why he's not there because he's dead. It's just another reason why this movie like probably shouldn't exist.
Hmm. Hmm.
But it's also hilariously fun to talk about.
Absolutely, and I think it just is a great talking point of, like, how adamant he was like, "I am not coming back for this." I think he was like, "I'd rather be shot or something like that than do this movie," and they even tried to get him back for Jaws 3, and, he said, "Absolutely not," and from those production notes that I saw, the original script was to kill him off in the first act of this movie, like, that was gonna be the big impetus for this
Oh,
thing
okay.
was and I guess and
Mhm.
then maybe just because of that, he didn't come back, then they'd put Sean Brody in that spot to get killed instead here. I don't think that would make the film any better. I think that would all make us more
Right.
sad that a legacy character was
Went
disrespected
out
as
so
such, perhaps.
horribly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think look, this film probably wasn't going to be great. Will I mean it leads me to frankly to my next question here for you is like, is there a world where like the Jaws sequels are good? Like, will they ever be able to recapture the magic of the first one, or is it just a case of diminishing returns every time that they produce another one because like the one is so good and it's a perfect masterpiece in many ways? Can they even top
Yeah.
that, or at least get close to matching it? Which I don't think they have. What do you think?
No, I agree. Like I said in the beginning, I do think that the original Jaws was a lightning in the bottle kind of
Hmm.
movie. And if we're kind of comparing it to another franchise, also a Spielberg franchise, I think of Jurassic Park.
Sure.
Like the first Jurassic Park was a lightning in the bottle movie, and I think unlike Jaws, at least their sequels for that have been better and more
Yeah.
entertaining, but none of the sequels have been able to capture that
Hmm.
magic and the awe and the wonder of that first Jurassic Park
Sure.
film. And it's the same with Jaws, but it's harder to kind of expand quote a universe where the premise of it is a shark attacking people and the victory of the movie is the shark getting
Hmm.
killed. So it's harder to kind of like build a whole like universe off of this premise because like I said, the first Jaws movie, it wasn't just a shark movie, it was a human movie with a shark in
Hmm.
it. It's grounded and it's intimate and terrifying because it understood that the scariest thing isn't the monster that you can see, it's the monster you can't
Yeah.
see. So it used restraint and it used tension, and it's a horror film paced like a
Hmm.
thriller. And that's what makes the first one so special. And it's really hard to capture that same magic in every other sequel that it had, just kind of going downhill. So I I'm sure it's been talked about with like how would you revitalize the Jaws franchise because this movie was the quintessential shark
Hmm.
movie, and since we have gotten Jaws, we've gotten other shark movies. Like the most recent ones that I've seen are like The
Hmm.
Shallows, 47 Meters Down, The
Yeah.
Meg. We've gotten like other shark movies since then
Sure.
that it's like, okay, if we're gonna quote put shark genre as a genre and we're gonna keep on adding to
Hmm.
it, there's been other movies since then that kind of tackle this idea of sharks attacking
Yeah.
people. So when it comes to the Jaws universe and the specific characters and stuff, I personally don't know how you would craft a narrative that would be more compelling than the first
Yeah.
movie. And I don't know. I've also heard like an idea tossed around like, oh, could you make like an like anthology 10 episode
Ooh.
show or
Ooh.
something that takes place in Amity, and maybe it's more of a investigation type show with shark attacks in it or something. Like
Hmm.
maybe that might be interesting, but then you're kind of getting more into the soap opera of it
Yeah.
all versus like the sharks. So all that being said, I don't think in my head that Jaws can ever recapture the magic of the
Hmm.
first one. So I guess I feel like it's better just to kind of take the shark genre in general and just kind of do some new things with it. I haven't seen so recently in June of this year. And by the way, maybe earlier I said that we were recording this in June. It's July. I looked at my calendar. Okay. So anyway, but there's a movie called Dangerous Animals that came out in
Hmm.
June of this year that's like a shark type movie, but its different take is It's more of a serial killer thriller
Got it.
that his way of killing people is by using
Oh.
sharks. So it's not purely just a shark movie, but it has those elements in it. It's also kind of like a killer type movie. And I heard it was good. I haven't seen it, but I think the idea of just kind of taking the shark genre and putting some new spins on it, I think that's interesting. I personally can't come up with a great idea to expand the Jaws
Mhm.
franchise. I'm not a screenwriter, but hey, if anybody in Hollywood comes up with a fantastic idea, then many of us would line up.
Yeah, are you seated for Jaws 5 already if they announce it tomorrow?
I feel like that would be a movie that I would like wait till the reviews came out before paying
Cautiously
money
optimistic,
to
yeah.
go see it. Yes, I'd be cautiously optimistic.
Do you think that, like, all these sequels center around some aspect of the Brody family? Do you think that, like, that choice to be so connected to one family and keep that as a through line between these films, like, do you think that brought it down in some ways? Because then it just, like, tries to connect to something and it's just not really working. Like, if they had perhaps done a completely, like, a 180, for example, let's say, like, it's um some community, let's say in like the Gulf, some Louisiana town, for example, right, has a shark encounter, similar to Amity, and they
Hmm.
like read a book that like Hooper wrote or something like that, or Brody wrote in the years after at, and they're like, oh, okay, let's try and hunt this shark like these guys did. Like, could that work better? Uh,
Okay, so now that you're saying that, whenever we're talking about this almost template strategy, and here's me just kind of like
mhm,
thinking out loud, but I'll use Final Destination as an example because we've gotten what, like five Final Destination
yeah,
movies, and the template for those movies are
mhm,
always the same, and all the main characters in those movies die every time. So every time you get a new movie,
yeah,
it's a new place, it's a new set of characters, it's different types of deaths. So what if you took the same type of idea for Jaws, where, like you said, maybe you're not following the Brody family, but for example, Jaws 3 now goes to
mhm,
California and it's a new set of characters that are getting attacked by
yeah,
a shark. Oh, Jaws 4 goes to South America and they're getting attacked by a shark or something. That would be interesting to explore. I think coming back to the groundwork of it, if the characters are
right,
interesting and compelling, and maybe the narrative itself crafts itself for good tension. It would be cool if you had it all take place in the same universe where it's like, oh, I heard a shark like this was attacking a family in this state. Like, it maybe hints back at like
mhm,
past movies. It's in the same universe, but you're getting to know a different set of characters every time. That could be interesting, either as well, maybe going back to that anthology series idea where every episode is just 1 hour and it
sure.
is a different family or something. Like, anyway, something to think about. But I agree that the idea of kind of having all the weight be on the Brody family, in terms of we're only following this family for all the movies. At some point, there's the lack
Yeah,
of the arc
yeah,
for all of them. And that's the bigger issue with Jaws: The Revenge, is none of the
mhm,
characters have an arc. They're just
they
kind of
exist.
sleepwalking, going through the motions of this plot. There's dialogue in there that alludes to things that are never explored further, so it's just very kind of shallow from start to finish. And there's not really a big arc or lesson or anything that any of the characters learn or go through or go or like grow from, which is, at least in the first
Yeah.
Jaws, that's what you get. It's a compelling story, but not in Jaws: The Revenge. So, but I do like that idea of the whole Brody family piece. Do you have other thoughts about, you know, expansion or more Jaws movies in your mind? Like,
Yeah, I mean, we have to fulfill the prophecy of Back to the Future 2, where they think Jaws 19 is coming to theaters soon. So we have 15 more of these to make in order to make that a reality. I think I think ultimately you have to get back to the core of if they were to make another one of these, like we're talking about here, they have to get to the idea and the root of what makes us enjoy these films. And I think, at least for the first one, right? I think it's character first and foremost, right? Are these characters that we empathize with? Do we root for them? And I think community too. I think many of the aspects of the first movie that I love so much is that Amity is such a cozy town. You're already rooting for it.
Mm-hmm.
It has these wonderful production design elements that make you just want to be there. You want to live there. You want to be a part of their Fourth of July celebrations. Like you don't want this town to be ruined by this shark that's killing people indiscriminately in their town. Um, so if they explore that in different communities, right, and see how they would react to something, whether it's America, whether it's South America, I'm saying North America here, South America, maybe even where in the Pacific, right? I think that's a choice. I think as in doing this Jaws saga rewatch, basically over this course of these couple of weeks here, I learned a very interesting tidbit that Jaws. There was a brief period where Spielberg was going to come back for Jaws 2, but he couldn't because he was filming Close Encounters at the time, and because of that cycle, he would have had to come onto the project a lot later than they wanted to. So then they hired another director. But in that time frame where he was interested, he was like in a course of like a weekend or two, he wrote a script for what Jaws 2 would be, and it was actually going to be a prequel to Jaws 1, which was going to follow Quint's story about the USS Indianapolis, which is arguably the best scene.
Oh, see, that would have been so
And that's
cool.
exactly it. Like I'm like, okay, no one just had the right idea yet for how to mine a perfect prequel or a sequel to this thing. And he even had an idea like maybe it's like Quentin Brody's kids years later, like 30 years later, then trying to hunt down a shark like in the way that their parents did, right? Kind of in that the way that we have legacy sequels now where it's 30 years later and the kids
Mm-hmm.
of our heroes and now go off on adventure and they're mentored by the heroes of before, right? I feel like those could be the roots there if we believe in it. But Jaws 2 takes place 4 years after the events of Jaws 1, which just feels too close for it to like really have a major impact on this. And then Jaws 3 is like maybe 5, 6 more years later, and then this seems to be another 5, 6 years later in the continuity. And it just is like, okay, lightning keeps striking for this family. Like, why does this keep happening to this family? Ultimately, is where I just sit on this. I'm like, this is just not realistic. Why does this keep happening to one family? They're
Right.
just centered out. They're always in the midst of these shark discussions, and it just always seems like, at least in this one, I'm like the Brody family doesn't. Aside from Ellen, she's taken it to heart, really. But like Michael doesn't care. I'm like, dude, you've been in the midst of every one of these shark encounters since the beginning. And you don't have anything. You don't have any like reaction or trauma to this. Your brother was just killed by one like a few weeks ago, and now you're just like,
I
casually
know.
putting
That's another piece
yeah,
that
yeah,
bugged
you're
me.
just casually putting a tracker on this thing to study it, right? And then like it's really interesting, a lot of this. And I'm like, is it just because they had a quick production schedule and need to get this out as soon as possible, and that can factor things along the way? um but yeah, I think I would, they're going to make more shark films, right?
Right.
People are very fascinated by sharks. There's a reason why there's a Shark Week every week on Discovery Channel still, even with dying legacy media of television. People still tune into that and they love it, and it's great. I tune in myself and I love it a lot. Um, but I think there's just something to be said that there is an opportunity where, I mean, that script, that Spielberg script, is on the Universal lot. Like they have it.
Mm-hmm.
It's in a cabinet locked away. Someone just needs to
Yeah,
go
that's
in
so
there and
crazy.
steal it,
Mm-hmm.
pull it out, and then start filming that tomorrow. And that might be your next summer blockbuster right there.
Right. So I want to know, just so we can at least address the good and bad, right?
Hmm.
So out of this movie, what are the good things that you think it had going for it?
Yeah, so I will say that I think, for me at least, the best parts that I think are one, this is a very cozy film. That's I will give this film its crew it's just desserts on this one, right? And bringing back Amity, and especially Amity at Christmas time, the best idea that they had in this movie, right? I want to see this ocean faring town and how they deal with the Christmas season with the holiday lights and all that stuff. It is picturesque. I love it. It sounds perfect. And I want to be there. And again, that ties back to the, oh, you see Amity and the 4th of July in the first film. You're like, okay, this is a great, humble town. Let me be there. I want to be a part of it. I'm booking my trip to Martha's Vineyard right now to get up there and be a part of it and see the sights. This is like, okay, how are they handling the dark cold of winter up there in Massachusetts? And it seems like they're doing great. And then you go from that coziness to down to the coziness of the Bahamas, where you're like, also like, this is great. Give me this like tropical Christmas season too. I like the contrast between this. This feels great. I like that a lot. I this could be. I will say too. This is a positive and a negative, right? On this front here, there's only 2 deaths in this movie, 2 shark kills. So if you're coming into this movie, folks, expecting there to be a lot of carnage and whatnot, there isn't in terms of numbers a lot. But I think for the 2 deaths that we get, they are pretty brutal. So if that's what you're coming in for this for, you just want to see the shark go ham on some people. The way that shark kills that girl on the banana boat, like she she gets a nice chomp taken right out of her. And
Right,
poor
right.
Sean Brody just gets his arm eaten off first, and he has that whole fight with the shark basically. I feel like that was a really great sequence there. So between the 2 of that, I guess it's a I wish there was more quantity, but for the quantity that we got, there is some quality there, I would say, in those. And I will say the controversial take, I like Hoagie a lot. I like whatever Michael Caine's bringing into this endeavor here. I know he's phoning it in for sure. He's never seen the movie.
He is cutting
He
that
took a
check.
paycheck. It paid for his house, right, or his mom's house, or something like that. He's like, he's very clear about how he just really got his money for this one. But there's just something like,
Right.
even when Michael Caine's not even trying, there's just something charming about, first off, a guy named Hoagie, and that he's just like trying to hit on Ellen Brody. They're like all these single like ladies come down to the Bahamas. He's just fixating on all of them and takes them out for a ride on the town, and that just seems like, and then he boats and fishes in the afternoon. Like what an interesting guy. And where's my Hoagie spinoff is really what I'm getting at here.
Right. Yes. I totally so we will dive into this later whenever we talk about the whole Christmas movie aspect of this movie because I have some thoughts on that. But I agree. So like just when it comes to the location
Hmm.
shots, the cinematography, these locations in the Bahamas. It looked really
Yeah.
good. I mean, I think it's something that back in the 80s, filming on location was very
Hmm.
common, and now with modern movies, we've kind of become accustomed to them doing it on sound stages, and it's just obvious. Like you're clearly in a
Yeah.
water tank or whatever. So I appreciate the on location shots. I thought that the underwater cinematography looked good. They had some good moments in there sometimes, not all
Sure.
the time, of building the tension and whatnot. And the music score by Michael
Hmm.
Small, I thought,
I agree. Not bad.
try to bring some action adventure themes in there, and the original Jaws theme, obviously I know that's not his, but um it's just always
Weaved
iconic.
in
But
pretty well, I thought.
yeah, so I thought, considering the story wasn't that great, there were still some elements to like. And I agree, the most entertaining shark deaths were kind of that first sequence of Sean Brody getting eaten
Hmm.
by the shark. Well, he loses an arm, and then
And then the rest.
yeah, and then the banana boat sequence, and but then the rest of them after that, they just kind of go downhill, and the final one is definitely pretty hilarious. But yeah, I think those are my positives, but then after that, that's kind of where it
That's
ends
it. Yeah. Yeah.
because
I think that's fair.
and because then when it comes to everything else, and usually anytime I review a movie, it's almost always the story that brings it down.
Hmm.
I will gush all day about the visuals or the action choreography or the music or whatever. I'll gush all day about that. But oftentimes it's like, this character wasn't the best, or this arc, this
Hmm.
story, it was overstuffed, too many themes go like trying to be explored. So when it comes to this one, it was, like I said, very much just going through the motions of, number one, a plot that
Yeah.
didn't make any sense, and all these different subplots as well. So just to kind of like address
Go
some
ahead.
of the like subplots, they kind of have um like a family vacation drama in a
Yep.
way with the mom and Michael. There's a hint of a romantic comedy with Michael Caine's character and Ellen Brody. And then, it's trying to be like a monster movie with the gory action, and there's Michael and his friend being underwater
Hmm.
scientists studying snails. What does that have to do with anything? No one knows.
Nothing.
Um, and so essentially, like, the movie goes on where they're just kind of placed in these random scenarios that are almost like these pocket interactions, but they very rarely connect to like this story that's just
Hmm.
building throughout. One thing that I mentioned was like explored, but it's never explored more. So, like, for example, there's a scene on a boat whenever Michael, Brody, and Jake, his friend, they're the scientists trying to find the underwater snails.
Hmm.
And then Michael Brody keeps on bringing up his concerns about Hoagie wanting to date his mom, Ellen, and being like, I don't know, this guy's kind of weird. What does he really do for a living? All this stuff. And it just ends. And it's like, okay, what's the point in having dialogue like that if there's, maybe not a bigger mystery there? Like,
Hmm.
oh, does Hoagie have bad intentions?
Yeah. What's
Or,
Hoagie's deal?
you know, um, so there's just like a lot of instances like that it's just like, what was the point in that conversation? What's the point in this dialogue and where the story is going? And that's my main con, specifically with the first two acts, that it's just so
Hmm.
boring. And that's why I think it's bad. Like, if you're sleepy, it's hard to stay awake to kind of just see how it plays out. It's not until the third act that I say things, quote, start to pick up, because then it starts to get hilariously
Hmm.
bad. But yeah, it's just like there wasn't really anything about those first two acts that, with the story itself, it just lacked so much. And something else that I, noticed is, so there's a sequence whenever Michael is underwater doing snail samples. Oh, and now it's time for a shark attack
Yeah.
sequence. The way it's edited is, it's like one frame is the shark, one frame is Michael. They are never in the same frame.
No.
There's never a
Oh.
frame where you see the shark is just about to like eat the like tip of his flipper or anything. It's just one shot. And clearly it doesn't like scale it to where you see, oh my gosh, the shark is like super
Hmm.
close. He's gaining up on speed. And another thing that, unlike the first film, is every time the shark sequences, the shark attacks came up in this film, you always saw it
Hmm.
coming, either because, number one, the music or the camera
Yeah.
angles. There was never just kind of this random moment and then a jump scare of a shark just popping out of the
Yep.
water. Every time you saw it, whether it was from the camera being in the shark's perspective and they're creeping up, but it clearly just killed the suspense that you could have had, because there was no tension. You always saw everything coming, and in the way it was edited as well, there was also never
Yeah.
tension. So there was just like a lot of things that, even if you were just trying to be a shark movie, it failed in those aspects
Sure.
too. Even if you were like, oh, these characters, they suck, just kill them off, even the shark parts weren't even that
That's right. Yeah,
exciting.
the shark's not killing all of them off. In fact, they like cop out of a few deaths in at the end of this. I'm like, oh, Jake got a few chumps in him, and there he pops up at the end. He's like, hey, did you miss me? Good to go. Like,
Yes.
what? He was a goner a few
Yes.
seconds ago. There's no way he's coming out alive here.
Yes. That was another thing that definitely bothered me in the third act. So I guess I would love to dive more. So whenever I'm talking about the like third act, I'm talking more about that sequence on the
Yes.
boat where it's like, all
Yeah, where they have
right,
to hunt down
Hoagie and
Ellen and
them
all
are
that.
flying in. So in terms of your thoughts on just kind of the first two acts of the movie before it's like this final showdown with the
hmm
shark on the boat, what are the main cons that you thought it was just kind of lacked in those
Well,
areas?
for the first two acts, I will say particularly, it's where they try to emulate the first Jaws in so many ways. Like I feel like it goes out of its way to like do these callbacks to it. I'm thinking particularly of the scene where Michael is like doing that same like mimicking with his daughter sequence at the table,
Yes, the
and I'm like,
mimicking the kid with the
your
parrot.
brother did that with your dad. Like we see that it's not you, and then they have to have Ellen come in and say, "Oh, you used to do that with you and your brother used to do that with your father all the time." So then they had to like write around it.
Yes, it was so on the nose that they had to explain it instead of it just being a subtle visual thing. So number one, they lingered on it for
Yes.
too long. I don't think I would have minded it. It's a fun thing, but it was for too long. And then what killed it is that Ellen just straight up brought out, "Oh, you used to do that with your
Mm-hmm.
father all the time. Don't you remember?" And it's like, you could have just not said
It's
that
like,
at all.
yeah, yeah. It
It
would have
would
been
have been a
better.
subtle
It would have been
callback.
better if that she just said "aw"
Yes.
and then walked away
Mm-hmm.
and then hung out with Hoagie a bit more. I
Mm-hmm.
think like you were saying, like there's just so many half baked subplots in this thing that never come to
Mm-hmm.
fruition, and it cuts down the pacing a lot. Right. I think one of the
Right.
comments that we've talked about in other episodes of this series is like how good 2 hours. For the first Jaws, right? It's like 2 hours and 2 minutes or something like that, and it flies by, right? You feel like you're sitting there for a half hour watching that, and you're like, wow, where'd the time go? Like it's crazy. And then for like this and even Jaws 3, right, which are both clearly an hour and a half, 90 minutes, it was struggling to get to that runtime. That's why they add all these
Right.
subplots to it to like add more dialogue to make this thing go further. um when you add all of that into and it feels like you're watching a 3-hour movie at times. You're like like it's a slog
Yes.
to get through this. There's not really any compelling parts. There's no interesting dialogue. They try to do these like half-baked callbacks to the original film. Heck, even in the third act, they reuse footage from the first Jaws, like the shark exploding is the same footage. And like, did you think that it would just like
Yes.
fly over my head here? No, I've seen that movie a lot. I know when footage is being reused here, folks. And like, okay, I get that, Brody, Ellen gets to say you son of a bitch line again. um and a callback to that. I'm like, oh, I think Ellen Brody can have her own sentence here. Like she has to have her own kind of callback here. So I think that's where it really drags it down in those first two acts.
And let's pause for a bit on Ellen Brody and her psychic abilities
Yeah, did you
apparently in
did you
this movie.
like
That was
that?
another premise of it that makes zero sense. So on top of a shark having a personal vendetta for the Brody family for no reason, Ellen Brody apparently has this psychic
Mm-hmm.
ability, like
Mm-hmm.
this premonition, would you say, of like
Yeah.
these shark attacks before they happen. And going into the like third act, going, whenever it comes to apparently these visions that she's been having, she apparently is able to visualize the moment that Martin Brody
Mm-hmm.
shot the shark in Jaws
Yep.
1 and the moment that her own son was attacked by the shark in the beginning of this movie. And she wasn't even there. No one was there. Only the audience was there.
Mother's
And it's
intuition.
never explained this psychic ability that she has to apparently see the shark attacks. Um, and yeah, that's another thing that just bothered me and didn't make any
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. Was there anything else in the first two acts for you that you're like, oh god, how did this make it to the cut?
I think those are my
Okay.
main ones. Just overall lackluster characters from start to finish, storyline that doesn't have a through line, and just the premise itself just being absurd.
Yeah, yeah, totally lackluster across the board here. Let's dive into the Michael Caine of it all. Like, did you expect to see him in this movie in the fourth installment of a Jaws film? And really,
I
what
was
what impact
totally
does it
surprised.
have for this movie? Like, including this like world renowned actor.
So it's so funny because like the cast in this movie are not like well known by modern day standards. They're
Hmm.
not like household
Yeah.
names. So as the names are popping up at the beginning of the movie to say like starring Lauren Gary, Lance Guest, it goes on the names. I'm not familiar with these actors really. And then Hoagie, played by Michael Caine. And I'm like, what? The Michael Caine is in this
And he's named
movie?
after a sandwich.
Right. And he's playing kind of like a Michael Caine-esque persona type
Yeah, yeah.
character anyway. And I agree. It's not the take of his character that bothers me. I actually would say out of the whole cast, he is the standout
I think so
character. He's
too.
the one that's the most memorable. He's the most funny. He has that best line with "oh shit"
Yes.
in
Yes.
in the finale. Like there's like he's the best character overall, but going back to the key parts of the story, it's not what he played, but it was like what was his purpose in the
Hmm.
story. Like
Hmm.
if they're gonna do a bit of a romantic comedy aspect and they're gonna lean on is this guy shady or not, then lean on
Yeah.
that and just kind of commit to your themes a little bit
Right. Right.
more while have a compelling story while including the shark
Hmm.
attacks in places that makes sense. So but yeah, like I thought that he actually did not do a bad job in his performance. But he obviously was just in a movie that he himself, I think, said he's never seen it,
Nor
which
will
I
he.
don't blame the guy. And I heard that he unfortunately like missed his
He
Oscar
did.
speech. Like he won an Oscar and missed the doing the speech because he was filming this movie. Boohoo, man. But like you said, he got that check to buy his mom a house. So you know what? You do what you
That's
got to
right.
do. But I was surprised to see him in this movie, and I would say he's in my opinion the strongest cast member for
Oh,
sure.
most memorable, most standout. Like if I watch this movie again, like it'll be purely because of Hoagie, right? It's to learn
Right,
more about him and his interesting relationships that he has on the island as a pilot. He knows everybody. He's a fisherman. He's a gambler. He kind of just jack of all trades, can do anything. He's the most interesting man in the Bahamas right now, frankly.
right. I
So
agree.
that's give me a Hoagie spinoff, like I was saying earlier. I'll take that.
That
What?
would be
How did
so
he get
funny.
here? Why is his name Hoagie? Like, did he spend time in Pennsylvania and just like fall in love with our subs? I don't know. It's very interesting that this random British guy in the Bahamas would be named after a very particular dialect description of a sandwich. Um,
I
and
know
it
that's
makes
so
no
funny.
sense. But frankly, him being in this makes no sense. He is arguably, since Jaws one, the most like well-known actor of the era in one of these films. So it's like,
For
is
sure.
it perhaps this is the fourth installment? It's already getting bonkers as is. Like we just had a 3D installment before this one. Uh, get somebody in this that could be of interest to people. Like get our Alec Guinness for Star Wars, basically. Get our Obi-Wan Kenobi, and we'll call him Hoagie, and he'll have some witty banter throughout the movie. I don't know. It's very interesting, and that's arguably the best part of this movie is him being in it.
I agree.
So in terms of the shark kills, again, there's only a few of them. But is there a standout to you of the two of them? Like if you have to pick one, are you like that's the coolest one?
Well, definitely the most memorable, and I guess we can jump to our discussion of the third act
Yeah,
is the explosive shark death
yeah.
of
Oh,
the
sure,
third
that counts
act.
too, I guess. Yeah.
So I think so to kind of give like the listeners a premise for like where this kicks off. So Ellen Brody, she's, obviously decided this shark is out for revenge for
Hmm.
her family for no reason.
Hmm.
She hops on a boat. I think it's Michael's boat. It's like her
Yes.
son's boat.
Yep.
And
She
she
stole it.
has no weapons. She doesn't, there's no like sword, knife, gun,
I don't even think she knows
contraption
how to
of
drive
any
the boat.
sort. Yeah, there's nothing that she brings. She somehow knows how to drive the boat, like sail out into the ocean. She sails out into the ocean on her own, presumably with no plan, because once
Mm-hmm.
again, she doesn't have any weapons or
Very much
anything.
so.
She is going to go kill this shark, I guess. Um, Ellen is on this boat that she doesn't know how to drive, but she's off to go. And then Michael and Jake find Michael Caine's character and are like, we got to go after my mom. They go in Hoagie's
Mm-hmm.
plane to go find her.
Yep.
They're able to somehow find her out of all the boats. And this plane is not like one of those planes that has like the
Yeah, it
floaters
doesn't
where it
seem like a
looks
very much
like
aquatic plane.
this is a water plane that's supposed to land in water. It's not, it's clearly not a plane that's supposed to land in
It just crash
water.
lands in
And
water.
Hoagie, Michael Caine's character, drives it straight into the water. And it's like, dude, this is now just gonna sink. You're sinking your boat. There's no floaters to keep your plane up. And then they dive into the water where the shark is to go climb onto the larger boat
Yeah.
to meet up with Ellen Brody. And, you know, there's a conversation of like, what are you doing here? What were you thinking? All this stuff. And then they find themselves on the boat as the shark starts attacking, because
Mm-hmm.
of course the shark finds them.
Yep.
And I might be missing some plot beats here in terms of like the details of the explanation, but go like jumping into the ultimate part of this shark's death. What I found was hilarious is the way that they kill the shark is by stabbing it with the tip of the boat.
Yes.
I forget the proper name of this part of the boat.
The mast, I think.
The mast.
Sounds about right.
So, right. So she stabs the shark, but it surprisingly explodes as if there's like a bomb or something in
Yeah.
it. You know, it explodes like similar to the other movies, and it's like it's edited with this like slow-mo dramatic like with all the like blood and
fireworks
pieces going
and all that,
everywhere.
Yeah.
So I would say because of how hilarious that was the most, I guess, memorable shark scene, because I found it so absurd.
Right.
That's what made it hilarious to me, because it was just like, this is so hilariously bad. But before the shark explodes, the shark manages to take Jake, which is the side buddy of Michael Brody, chomps him at the torso. Yep. Chomps him at the torso, blood gushing out of his mouth. The guy's clearly like, dude, you got some internal organ damage. And the shark drags him to the bottom of the ocean. Yep. So honestly, I was like, wow, I mean, it's not like I was very close to that Jake character, but you know, at least they got a pretty solid kill that was like kind of sad. And then Michael does this very dramatic Jake!
Yes.
And it's so long and drawn out and cheesy. And then of course, like after the shark explodes, but before the shark explodes, I kid you not, it comes out of the water and roars like a lion. Yes. The roar, even though sharks don't have lungs and don't roar. And that was also hilarious. Okay, the shark roars, it explodes, and then lo and behold, after the shark has been blown to bits, here floats up Jake that has miraculously survived this horrible shark death. Yeah. And what's so funny is I could tell, like, so essentially we have that boat sequence where they are, you know, trying to kill the shark, and the scenery kind of has a certain lighting and tone. And I could tell after the shark explodes, like the later scene is clearly in a water tank because the sky is painted, the water is a different color, the lighting's different. So you're like, oh yeah, this was definitely reshot. This was not part of the original plan. And from the research that I did, apparently, like there was an original ending that whenever the shark died, it didn't explode. It just kind of like went into the water. Yeah. It was a little bit gory, but it wasn't this dramatic explosion. And then Jake, the character, really did die. But I don't know if it's because they showed it in international markets and it didn't do well. Like, I don't know if it was focus groups or something, but they then were like, you know what? Changed our minds. Jake is
He's
gonna
gonna live
live. He
somehow.
is not gonna die because apparently the audience doesn't want him to die, and he miraculously survived. And that was actually another thing that bothered me because it minimized the
Hmm.
kill.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, that wasn't a real kill. It felt like it was just a cheapened experience
I agree.
because for a moment there you thought that this family, Michael, actually had a real
Hmm.
loss. Like, wow,
Yeah, he
he really
cared for
lost a
him. Yeah,
friend. Right. But no, he
right there.
miraculously survived. And that was another thing that bothered me. I kind of wish that they had committed
Commit to
to
the bit.
the Jake
Yeah.
kill. Like, Jake's, I mean, he's there for comedic relief, overall, a shallow character. Sorry, Jake. I think you should have stayed dead.
I agree too. I think Jake should have, that was kind of a cop out. I'm like,
Right. A cop out for sure.
there's no way in the world this guy is, like you said, drowned to the bottom of the dragged down, bitten in half, right? Like that alone should just have gotten him. And like I couldn't even imagine all the strength that it would take to swim with like your all your blood pouring out and like being literally chomped in your torso region with your vital organs right there.
I know. I know. No, no way that he survived that.
Like I'm if that had like it's already a movie that's off the rails to begin with, but like it has a shark that can theoretically track this family down. Like it's one more thing on a list of a mountain that's already insurmountable of things that are like it's off the rails bonkers. Like of course one more thing to add this before we close up shop on the Jaws franchise.
I know. So, what are some things when it came to that final act, the boat, just all the drama and action that
Hmm.
goes on? Like, what are the things that I guess just stick out in your mind, whether it be good or bad?
Well, the bad is definitely the roar. Um,
The roar, I know.
I
The
think the
shark
shark
roar.
roar, which was apparently a mandate. The studio was like, there needs to be a roar. I'm like, okay, yeah, the shark needs to roar. I've heard sharks roar before. Yeah. Apparently the sound is from Tom and Jerry. Um, it was sampled from Tom and Jerry.
Oh my gosh,
So,
yeah.
we're like, wow, okay, thank you, Warner, thank you, Universal for doing this here. Um, that's egregious. I like the explosion. Give me a good explosion. The shark gets it right. I think that's what we came here for. At least give me some of that. I think that works. I like that. I do. Ellen Brody's been in three of out of these four films. I'm glad she finally gets like her action moment to some degree. She's not just on the shore looking out at everybody and waiting for everybody to come home. She's actually in control of the boat and her destiny a little bit here. So I applaud that story beat there. Um, I think yeah, Jake needs to go. He should have never risen out of the water. I mean, there's only two kills in this film beyond it, but beyond the shark
Right,
dying
yeah.
here, which I'm like, that's a little bit of false advertising when you're expecting, Jaws the revenge, right? The revenge.
Right.
That should be like, especially with the tropes of horror films, right? As sequels go on, the kill count should go up. That should be like every
Yeah.
like 3 minutes there should be someone getting chomped up, and especially in the late '80s, right, where you have these slasher movies going left and right, Halloween, Friday,
Right.
Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, right? Um, they're getting gorier and they're throwing up the kill counts like no tomorrow. So this film should be the Jaws antithesis, like response to that. And that should be Chomp City, right down there in the Bahamas, right? That whole like festival that they had on the water where poor Banana Boat Girl gets it, right? That should have been feeding frenzy time, or the sharks just going around
Right, yeah.
eating
It
left
could
and
have been
right.
like a full sequence with all these people getting chomped and all this stuff. Yeah, that would have been more
For
entertaining than
sure.
what we got.
Yeah. So I do like some of those aspects. I mean, the boat getting pretty much blown to shreds too. Like, there's no way that they get back out of this thing here. Um, it just it falls apart so humorously that it's almost like I think I'm on the same boat that you're kind of alluding to here. It sounds like where you're like the third act is so bombastic and outlandish and out of this world that like you kind of enjoy it to some degree.
Yeah, it's just fun to make fun
Yeah.
of because
So
it's so
so bad it's
bad.
good.
Because at least it's
It's a full
not
circle.
boring. Yeah. Right. Because the first two acts, they're just plain boring and
Hmm.
bad. But at least the third act, it's
It's what you
bad,
signed up
but
for.
it's absolutely cringe. Right. So it's got that, it's so bad, it's a popcorn movie.
Honestly,
Entertaining thing. So it's like really you could skip the rest of the movie and just watch that
you know,
final act
you
on the
get
boat and
the
just kind of laugh
maybe you
at
get
it.
the Sean Brody death just to get some establishment of what's going on here. And he's like, "Oh, we're going to the Bahamas now. Grandma's coming down for Christmas. We're celebrating." And then skip to them going out on the boat and finding Ellen Brody hunting the shark down. I think you got the gist of it. That's the revenge story there. That's it. That's the real movie.
Right, the quote revenge story. Like we still don't know what the shark is seeking
You
revenge
know,
of.
it's
But
actually interesting if it, not to cut you off there, but if you do cut the film like that, it turns the film into the Brody family getting revenge on the shark for killing Sean. So
yeah.
we're always just assuming here it's Jaws getting its revenge on them, but from that point of view, they're getting their revenge for their lost son and brother. Hmm.
Yeah.
More
I
compelling.
mean it is a revenge on the other end of it, yeah, from the family's perspective. What I was gonna say though was our different takes on the Christmas aspect
Well, let's
of
dive
this
into it. Yeah,
movie.
that's where I
Which
was heading here.
yeah, yeah, because you had said that you actually like the
I
Christmas
do. I
aspect of
do.
it because of kind of the coziness and stuff. Was there anything else about that?
No, I mean, you've seen these people
Yeah.
in their sweaters and all of that, and just the warm, dark tones of Amity at this time, and then the brightness of the Bahamas. Living in a semi-tropical area myself, like I cling to that, but I also come from central Pennsylvania, where it is very dark and cold and cozy.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're in your home, you have your fireplace going, right? I feel both of these instances here, so that does connect in with me on that front here. But it really just depends, I guess, on your definition of what is a Christmas movie. Does it need
Mm-hmm.
is it just that it's set in a season of Christmas and it has a tree and they've exchanged presents or something like that? Is that what the bare minimum definition, or does it need to have like Christmas central to the plot and all of that? I guess could be your question here. Like the age old drama is Die Hard a Christmas movie.
Right.
And let's
Mm-hmm.
extend that further. Is Jaws the Revenge a Christmas movie? Let's hear your thoughts,
Is
because
Jaws the
I
Revenge
think
a
it is.
Christmas
But
movie?
let's go with you on this one.
I am in the camp that Jaws the Revenge is not a Christmas movie.
Ooh, okay.
Right. And okay, so here's my thing that okay, going back to one of the things that this movie lacks is its lack of really being able to connect to a theme or just different themes period. It's
Mm-hmm.
just it kind of cycles through and doesn't really commit to anything.
Yeah.
I honestly if they went in being like, "Hey, Jaws the Revenge, it's going to take place at Christmas time. This is going to be a Christmas movie."
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be more integrated into the story. And one of those pieces of Christmas is kind of that familial aspect of coming together for Christmas. And granted, I understand that kind of the premise of this plot in the beginning, they come together for the holidays. But
Yeah.
if there was a larger theme explored of like, maybe the like family is grieving the death of like Martin Brody, and
Mm-hmm.
that's really shaken them up. Maybe their family's kind of torn apart in a way, and
Sure.
somehow the shark manages to bring them together emotionally because of all the distraughtness. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but if there's kind of like okay, if you're gonna lean into kind of like this holiday aspect of like fellowship and what does family mean in the midst of a shark movie, then I would say like okay, like lean into the bit that it's a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
But Christmas, in my opinion, in this movie, it's there like to me, like I don't even understand why it was really there. You could say the argument, like, okay, like it makes sense with the whole idea, like, okay, the kids are coming to see the grandma, like
Mm-hmm.
Ellen Brody, for the holidays, but you could have also made that same excuse for coming to see her in the summer or
Sure. Sure.
something,
Thanksgiving, right? Halloween.
right? Or just, so for like me, like the like theme of Christmas, when I say that lightly, it felt incredibly forced to
Okay,
me.
fair.
It just was like, okay, you have the snow, you have the Santa hats, you have Christmas music going on, but it has nothing to do with the plot, which is
Hmm.
very thin to begin with.
Right, right.
It has nothing to do with the themes. And essentially, whenever we get to the Bahamas, it's kind of forgotten about. It's just kind of
Yeah,
like,
kind of a
okay,
side part.
Christmas was a forced theme whenever we're in Amity, but now whenever we're in the Bahamas, we're in like a summer vacation movie,
Yeah.
or whatever. And then of course, once again, the movie doesn't really commit to anything,
No.
which makes it messy. But it's just kind of like, okay, like how did Christmas really play a part in this? And then even as the movie goes on, like, essentially once they leave Amity, there's no more Christmas music.
Hmm.
There's no more Christmas
Yeah.
anything. It doesn't,
The Bahamas still
it's
have
just
Christmas as far as I understand.
right. Yeah. It doesn't really like come full
Hmm.
circle. Where I feel like if there is a movie that you could make the argument of, is this a Christmas movie or not? I mean, there's lots of things that you could point at as to like, okay, like it could be the background of something, but I would say if it really feels like a Christmas movie, it's fairly integral to
Hmm.
the plot and the themes, and it kind of just comes full circle from beginning to
Yeah.
end, and it moves the story forward. Because, like, in the question, like, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? I would say that it is, because John McClane, the character, flies to LA to reunite with his family for
Got it.
Christmas. The office party is a holiday event, and Let It Snow plays at the end credits,
Hmm.
and it has themes of family and reconciliation and redemption baked into the narrative. So that movie kind of comes full circle for me as being a Christmas
Got
movie.
it.
Jaws the Revenge, no.
Just so what you're telling me is that Jaws: The Revenge will not be part of your regular holiday movie
Right.
rotation,
Oh, yeah. Or
or
any
any
movie rotation,
rotation.
period.
What you're telling me is you may never revisit this film again.
Oh yes, will not revisit. I'm sure, it's that one exception if you were gonna invite friends over for some
Yeah.
wine and
Okay.
you watch just the final act.
You're like, hey, I got some fun for us to watch. Well, I think that's exactly right. I don't think this film didn't win any Oscars. It's not, really getting any accolades. In fact, the only way it gets talked about is in large Jaws discussions, right? People going through the whole saga and then seeing where it ends up, and just the absurdity of it all the way through here. And I appreciate you diving into the sequel here with us, and closing out this kind of Jaws discussion on this matter here. Do you have anything else that you want to add about Jaws: The Revenge before we close up here?
Well, I guess I want to ask you, Anthony, because I think it's kind
Okay.
of universally agreed. Like, okay, this is a bad movie.
Hmm.
So, from the movies that you've seen,
Okay.
is this the worst movie that you've ever
No.
seen, or
Ah.
just kind of in the top 10? Like, I guess where would it rank for you in terms of worst movies?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's totally not a stellar film. It's not one that I'll revisit very often, but I think there are enough elements here where I'm like, it is serviceable sometimes,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not one of those where I have this immediate knee-jerk reaction to be like, "Oh no, it's terrible." That I will like I look, it's an hour, and it's an hour and a half. Most of the probably 99 times out of 100, if I have the opportunity to watch it, I will reject the option to do so. But there's a part of me that's kind of looking forward to next Christmas season already, and then maybe somehow wrangling my family to sit down and watch it around the holiday time, just for the absurdity of it all. Because I think the Michael Caine could really drag me into this, and that would be a fun conversation starter for everybody to just kind of have it on the background, see the shark and hear the shark theme, see some elements of
Right.
Christmas. Like I can see some aspects where
Okay.
that could play into things here. Is it the
Mm-hmm.
worst film? And no, there's definitely less films that I will revisit less and more or less often than this one. Um,
Yeah, I agree.
but is it a big sin on the Jaws franchise? Absolutely. Did it derail it to the
Mm-hmm.
fact that we haven't had a sequel since?
Yes.
Those are all true. But is it the worst? thing to ever exist to mankind? No, no, there's worse art out there.
Right. I agree. I agree. Yeah, this was a fun conversation.
Absolutely, and I had a blast chatting with you as well, and I hope the folks at home listening enjoyed our conversation too, and I hope they check out your YouTube channel and your TikTok. Where can the folks find you online if they want to continue the conversation further, or if they want to check out your content that you're creating over there?
Yeah, so people can find me at Real Talk Jenabeth, REEL Talk Jenabeth, so Jenabeth. I'm on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. I post movie reviews and reactions, ranking videos. I love responding to all of my comments. So, yeah, definitely come check me out. If you also make movie content, I'd love to support you as well. I love being part of the film community. So, yeah, thanks for having me, Anthony.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. We will definitely have you back on again in the future. I'll find a way to get you back on to chat more movies and the fun stuff in this community too. And folks, go check out Jenabeth's channels, her TikTok, YouTube. Big supporter of the reviews that she does on those platforms. And guess what, folks? You might think we're done with the Jaws conversations here, but we're actually not. We have one more. And Jenabeth, that's what I'm saying is you think that this one is the worst. Oh, there's a movie we're talking next week that is
Oh,
worse
snaps.
than this one, and it's called it is technically a spiritual Jaws 5, and it's called Cruel Jaws. Um, it
Oh.
is an Italian knockoff Jaws feature film, which utilizes images from the Jaws franchise in it illegally. I'm not. It is a whole rights debacle. It is.
Wow.
You think this was bonkers? That one is somehow even more off the rails. I recommend checking it out just for the absurdity of it all. Again, it's another 90 minutes to devote to it. But folks, you can expect that next week on the podcast. So get ready for that. And until then, may the force be with you. Take care.